rules were written in faded red ink and taped to the reception desk like a small altar. No visitors after midnight. No lights in room 7. Do not wake the housekeeper. Never answer the back door. I laughed at first. By the 3rd week, I did not. I took the night shift because I needed money. The motel sat under a flickering sign off a highway that smelled of diesel. Inside, it smelled of coffee and dust. The guests moved in slow, as if time there was softer. The laminated rules watched from the desk like instructions for surviving something that listened. Most nights passed in rhythms. I learned the heater's cough, the squeak on the 3rd step, the hush of the laundry room. Mrs. Hale folded towels with patient hands. She never explained the rules. She moved as if she had learned to live with them. One rainy night, a woman checked in at midnight. She wore a black coat and kept her head down. She took room 7 and paid in coins. The rule about that room felt like a finger on my palm. At 3, the back door banged. A man stood soaked and wild. He demanded room 7. I told him it was unavailable. He pushed and cursed. A cold slid through the hall. Mrs. Hale appeared behind him. "You heard the rules," she said. The man left. After that, the motel tightened. Small rules collected like lint. No shoes at the threshold. No photographs in the hall. Do not feed the birds at the east window. They were not on the laminated sheet, but felt real. The more I obeyed, the calmer the place seemed. Curiosity made me break one rule. Sparrows clung to the sill, wet and shivering. My coffee was bitter. I scattered crumbs. The birds ate and tilted their heads, as if listening to something in the walls. That night the corridor lights stuttered. In the morning the birds lay in the flower bed. Regret slid over me. The rules crept into my life. I stopped answering the back door for favors. I passed room 7, as if holding my breath. Mrs. Hale hummed and folded towels. Once she said, "We are not the only quiet things that live here." Weeks passed. The man with the wet shirt returned. He forced the back door and climbed the stairs. I followed. The door to 7 stood open. A single candle burned inside. The man sank to the bed and cried. He held a photograph and whispered a name into the pillow. The room answered with a silence that felt like listening. Mrs. Hale watched from the stairwell. "We warn people," she said later. "We keep the doors for those who cannot." The man left at dawn. Time taught me more rules than paper did. The motel kept its own logic. It absorbed longing and sometimes returned it differently. Those who barged into the wrong rooms were given a vision that stayed with them. Those who obeyed slept through their hunger. Sometimes at night, I sat with the lights off and let my thoughts gather. The motel fills empty hours with stories. I would think of the woman in the black coat. I would imagine how the man stood at the back door and how the rain made his hair flat. Loneliness had its own clock here. It moved slow and kept time with the heater. The laminated sheet had a date in the corner. January, 17 years back. The paper had been taped and retaped. I thought about the owner who first wrote the rules. Maybe he wanted kindness. Maybe he wanted to bind fear. The motel keeps secrets like pockets keep lint. Sometimes pockets hold coins. Sometimes they hide the edges of people. A neighbor once asked if I was afraid. I could not answer. Fear is a useful thing sometimes. It keeps you from stepping where you should not step. Other nights, it is a heavy coat. I learned to wear that coat. It taught me when to move and when to hold still. There were thin sounds in the walls like someone turning a page. Voices floated down the hall like a distant radio. I could not catch the words, but the sorrow in them made me listen. Mrs. Hale would hum back, as if the tune belonged to both of them. I began to see the motel as a keeper. The rules were hands that held the things the building remembered. Months later, a boy arrived with a sleeping bag and an old watch that did not tick. He asked for the cheapest room and said his father waited in the car. I gave him a glass of water, breaking a small, invisible rule. He chose room 7 and set a photograph on the pillow. In the morning, he left the watch on the desk. When I touched it, the watch began to tick. He said it was time. The rules were not cruel for cruelty's sake. They felt like stitches that kept something ancient from unraveling. They asked small sacrifices, a light left unlit, a step taken around a threshold, words left unsaid. In return, the motel held its secret and let a town sleep. Sometimes I disobeyed. Once I answered the back door for a friend who needed shelter. He left before dawn with a new look, as if he had seen something he had not meant to find. I think the rules belonged to the building. Mrs. Hale would fold a towel and whisper, "We warn them, because some doors are not for living hands." Now, when I lock at midnight, I slide the laminated paper under the counter and listen to the motel breathe. The highway hums far away. If you ever find a list taped to a desk, read it twice. Follow it once. Some doors are closed not to keep people out, but to keep what sleeps inside from finding its way home.